and people called and congratulated her for opening a branch somewhere in a different state. And she said, that's not me.
You just go ahead and start building without thinking around registering the business.
If you start using it and it's not available, that means you're basically using on that person's name, and you can be liable for that. So
hi, welcome to Abayomi's podcast, and we're doing something different. We're bringing an expert to come and discuss startup and startup law. And I think this is a very amazing and interesting conversation, especially for new founders and early stage founders. There's a lot of things around regulations, around startup law that are somewhat hidden, but today we'll be bringing those things into light and into the fore so that you can understand some of these things before you even begin the journey of setting up your startup. You can already understand things around what kind of registration do you need? Do you need to register in Nigeria, in the US, UK? What kind of contracts do you need to have in place for your co-founders, for your employees? How do you do things around vesting? How do you treat things around ESOPs and many? Let me not give you all the tea. So I'm introducing my guest, which is a very brilliant and amazing lawyer. He works in the blockchain, cryptocurrency, and startup law space, and he has been a lawyer for a while now. And it's really great to have him here. Akpor, welcome. Let me just do a little introduction about yourself and Makreni.
Okay, so thank you. My name is Akpor Ighoho. I'm a legal practitioner based in Lagos. I started Makreni, my law firm, my baby, a few years ago, and we cater to businesses. Basically, we're a boutique law firm. What that means is that we cater to a specific niche of the market, so businesses and commercial law. So now a large chunk of our practice is representing clients in the blockchain and the startup space. Compliance, end-to-end compliance. That's what we do for our clients.
Amazing stuff. And welcome again to Abayomi's podcast. And
nice to be here.
I think a great place to start is, do I need to register my business? And what kind of registration do I need? Do I register in Nigeria? Do I register in US? Do I register in UK? How do I think around this?
Okay, so we always advise our clients to, as soon as they start business, register the business. The reason for that is you can do business for 1 year, 2 years, and the business blows up. And if your business is not registered, somebody can just take that name and use it, and it just leaves you high and dry. In fact, we had a situation where we had a client that came to meet us. She had a restaurant, and she ran it with her name and everything for about 2 years. And people called and congratulated her for opening a branch somewhere in a different state. And she said, that's not me. So we did our findings, and the person registered with her name and trademarked that her name. So eventually we were able to settle it, we were able to talk, and she was able to compensate them, and they let it go. But it's very important that you start by registering your business from the get-go. It protects you, and it makes you appear more credible, and you appear more, people prefer it generally. Your customers, your investors, everybody, they prefer it when you are registered.
So I've seen a lot of startups register an holding co in the US, and they now have registration in Nigeria. So they basically have the Nigerian one under the US one, and they also sort of do it in the UK to where they register UK as the HQ, and then in Nigeria one to sort of handle Nigerian. What's Nigerian regulation? What's the thinking behind that? How does it work?
I'll start by saying most startups in Nigeria, most businesses in Nigeria don't need to register outside the country. They are catering to a local market. By local, I mean those of us here in Nigerian market, so they don't need to do that. But of course, there are many instances where startups or businesses register either in the UK or in the US. In the US, it is primarily in Delaware. There's a reason behind that. Now, if you have a startup, you are thinking of getting funding from international investors. Yes. Or you went to YC, for example. YC is not going to invest in your company if you are not registered in Delaware. So you went to YC, for example, or some other incubator, or you expect foreign investors to come in, or you have some level of foreign participation. Basically, are trying to explore foreign markets. It's best to register outside Nigeria, typically in Delaware, because the investors feel more comfortable with companies that are registered there. They understand the legal system, they understand how things work in that place, and they approach you better if you do that. Now, there are also some companies that have registered in the UK. These are companies typically that are trying to access the European market or the Commonwealth market. That's why they do that. In addition, there's something you didn't mention, which is a certain set of companies that register in some of these islands, the Mauritius, Seychelles, and the rest. They do that for tax purposes, basically to reduce their tax exposure. And there's a whole complicated reason for that. But since you didn't ask, I won't go into that.
I mean, you can tell us a bit, just a bit.
Okay, just a bit. Okay, so companies register in these zero tax jurisdictions or little tax jurisdictions to reduce their tax liability in Nigeria. In Nigeria, companies are liable to pay a 30% tax on their income. That's the company's income tax. But if you register your company abroad in a jurisdiction that does not pay tax, arguably, that removes the need to pay the government the 30% tax. So that is why many of them do that. So
basically, the business is not a Nigerian entity.
Yes, it's not a Nigerian entity. But now the FIRS has come out with counter arguments, and there are also these arguments that if you operate in Nigeria, you must register in Nigerian legally, but there are always ways around it. The headquarters is usually there as the holdco. Then there's the operating company in Nigeria, so they funnel their profits back.
Right. Amazing stuff. Then I think I want us to also discuss a bit about the very early stages where you're still just thinking around the idea. Do you need to register your idea at that point in time? Because I found out that a lot of people, when the idea strikes them, they just go ahead and start building without thinking around registering the business. Is it absolutely important that you register the moment you get the idea, or you can start your business and then along the line you register?
Okay, so this is what I do now. We need to understand the registration process. So for example, Abayomi, you want to register, you want to carry on business as Abayomi Nigeria Limited, for example. You are not sure that name is available for you. So for you, before you even start using that name in your business dealings or at the idea stage, you need to go and find out whether it's available. Because if you start using it and it's not available, that means you're basically using on that person's name, and you can be liable for that. So we always advise, before you start business, do a name search. You find out whether the name is available. Then you register the company, start the process of registering the company. And under the law, when you do a name search and you find out that the name is available to you and you reserve the name, you are allowed to use the name from then on, as long as you proceed with the registration of the company. So registering a company is not too expensive. I always advise our entrepreneurs that, yes, they start from the get-go by registering their companies.
I think this also ties back to, I was watching a podcast recently where Donna, Thames manager, was talking about how she just thought of a name, the Leading Vibe, and then she just went ahead to register, which she didn't even know what it was going to be
used for.
So she had herself and her brother as the directors, the chairman and the directors of the board of the company, basically. And when Donna came in and then they wanted to start the company proper, they now had to do some restructuring around, which I think makes sense. So it just makes sense to start with registering, and then since you can always fix stuff at a later date, you can always get back to that. And so maybe also let's talk about bringing on a co-founder. What do I need to think about before I bring on a co-founder? I'm sure we're still going to talk about it more in the next subsequent episodes. Well, let's just briefly touch on it. What kind of contract should I have in place thinking about getting a co-founder?
Okay, so this is what I advise our clients. What we advise our clients is that you bring in a co-founder that complements you. It's almost like a marriage. So for example, I don't like, contrary to what you're saying, I don't like to go out in public. I don't like to talk. I like to do the work. Now, if I'm bringing a partner into my law firm, typically he or she should be the kind of person that likes being out there. So the person complements me. So that is the first thing. You need to look at a co-founder that does what you don't like to do, or excels at something that you don't excel at. So that is one. Then when you're bringing a co-founder, it is best to not just allocate equity upfront, to vest the equity over a period of time. We are going to talk about it in in other episodes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to go into that.
I mean, we can just touch on it briefly, but we are going to talk about it extensively.
Okay, yeah. So basically, it's best to create a vesting period with a cliff. What that means is, for example, Abayomi, you're bringing me in as a co-founder, maybe as a director in your company. The ultimate aim is to give me 25% of your company or 20% since you are very generous. Now, you want to make sure I do my duty as a co-founder, what you're bringing me in for. So the agreement is 20%, but you don't give me the 20% upfront.
Yeah.
So you say, okay, we are going to divide it over 4 years. So it's going to be 5% per year over 4 years. Now there's a 1 year cliff. What that means is that I get nothing unless I stay with you for 1 year and I deliver. Then the 5% kicks in. Then after that, on a gradual process, it can be every 5 months or every year, we get the remaining equity. So that's how you vest equity.
Amazing stuff. And I think this has been a very interesting conversation around starting your startup, what you need. And maybe also let's talk about, I'm sure we are still going to talk about it more in depth, but like a lot of founders, they tend to run away from giving their employees ESOPs, ESOPs. What would you advise, for instance? I mean, just briefly, because I mean, it's still something we're going to touch on.
You see, the job market, the talent pool is very small. The best employees, the best talent are looking for places with extra incentive for them. Now, as a startup, for example, Abayomi startup, yes, we have people from Money Points, people from Paystack looking at your employees too. So you might not be able to match the salaries that they will do, but what way can you bring your employees closer? You can give them a piece of the business.
Right.
So that is what we always advise. You give them a small piece of, but of course this is tied to performance and staying with you long term so you can grow the business together. I don't know if people are aware, the former CEO of Facebook became a billionaire because she got options from Mark Zuckerberg. Then the former CEO also of Microsoft is worth about $35 billion or so because he got options from Bill Gates as I think the 7th or 8th employee in Microsoft. So it's very important. It's a way of keeping your staff closer, incentivizing them, then making them happy. So we always advise that.
Money Points people also got some.
Yes, they got
really amazing
800K or
800K and in dollars.
Yes,
and 20K in dollars, which is really amazing. And I think this is a very interesting opener, right? And I think what we've covered so far is how to think around registering your business. If your business is primarily in Nigeria, focus on CAC registration. But if you're thinking of getting international investment, then maybe Delaware will probably be like the best option
Delaware,
for you. Or if you want to go into European countries, then you should think around UK, for instance. So I think this is a very good opener into the subsequent conversations that we are going to have. And I'm sure you'd enjoy it. So just stick with us and until the next episode. Cheers.